They say you die twice. First, when your heart stops beating. And second, when the world forgets your name. I'm still breathing. My name is Richard Hayes. I'm 73. And I am already dead in their eyes. Every morning, I wake up to silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that rings like an empty church. My house, once a beacon of family dinners and business calls, is now a graveyard of echoes. The wallpaper peels in corners. The stairs creak like old bones. But I keep it clean. Clean, quiet, forgotten. The kettle whistles at 6:15 sharp. Same chipped mug. Same Earl Grey. I wrap myself in a worn-out wool blanket, a gift from my wife before she passed, and settle into my armchair. The television hums without sound. I don't need the noise. I've seen enough men lie with smiles to last a lifetime. My children are successful. Doctors, lawyers, CEOs. Polished shoes, expensive words, tight schedules. They send birthday cards, usually late, signed, Love, Dad. Love with a comma. As if even affection now comes with punctuation. They think I don't notice when they avoid my calls. When they redirect my questions to their assistants. I asked my son last week if he remembered that camping trip we took when he was 10, the one where he broke his arm and I carried him 2 miles through the rain to the hospital. He said, "Was that the same year we went to Disneyland?" I nodded. I didn't have the strength to correct him. At the pharmacy, the clerk talks over me, like I'm a background noise in her podcast of life. In the doctor's office, the nurse pats my hand and says, "Don't worry, sweetheart, old age is confusing." In the grocery store, no one looks me in the eyes. I dropped a can of soup once, and watched 10 people walk by before a child, picked it up and handed it back like I was a statue from a war no one remembers. And yet, every night, I open the drawer beside my bed. Inside, a leather-bound notebook. Empty pages once. Now, half full. Dates. Names. Observations. Pain, written with the precision of a surgeon. Not whining. Not regret. Data. They don't know me anymore. But I remember them all. I was not always this. I was not born invisible. I was once a storm. A man who built, led, fought. A strategist. A protector. A king without a crown, because I never needed one. And now, they walk past me as if I am glass. That's the mistake. That is their mistake. Because while they see a man fading, I feel something else stirring. Something old. Something that once built empires and buried enemies. Something that watched men blink, and turned their lives to dust. It is not rage. Not yet. It is the slow awakening of memory. Of calculation. Of the deep, cold patience of a man who once waited 10 years to take a company from a thief and left him begging for severance. I sit in silence. But I no longer forgive. They remember none of it. But I do. I remember the weight of a boardroom, the silence before I spoke, that loaded silence, when grown men held their breath waiting to hear which direction the wind would blow. My voice once moved markets. My signature built hospitals. My word, just a word, could turn a nobody into a household name. I wasn't born into wealth. I earned every inch of my climb. I built my first business with a rotary phone, a folding chair, and a concrete basement that smelled of rust and hope. While others slept, I read. While they drank, I drafted deals. And while they laughed, I listened, carefully, methodically. I studied weakness the way others studied scripture. By 36, I was a lion in a room full of sheep. I made mistakes, of course. But I never made them twice. I remember the night my business partner stole from me, siphoned $250,000 into a Cayman account and ran. I didn't scream. I didn't sue. I waited. 2 years later, he was bankrupt, divorced, and publicly disgraced, and I never said a word. I simply arranged the pieces and let gravity do the rest. When the markets crashed in '92, I kept my workers paid. Sold 2 of my own cars to cover payroll. My competitors folded. I expanded. When my daughter wanted to study ballet in Paris, I mortgaged the lake house to pay for it. When my son totaled his car drunk at 19, I told the police to book him, then spent the night outside the station, just so he'd know I was near, but I wouldn't save him from himself. I was a father, but not a crutch. A husband, but not a puppet. I gave them everything. My time, my legacy, my spine. When their mother got sick, I slept on a hospital cot for 7 months straight. I shaved her head myself. I read to her at night. I held her hand when the light finally left her eyes. And they forgot. Now I sit in a house with no footsteps. My phone is a museum of missed calls that never came. The same children whose mouths I fed now eat at tables I'm no longer invited to. The same friends I loaned thousands to without contracts now dodge me at charity galas I helped fund. They say time erases all things. But I remember. I remember the respect. The weight. The fear I used to command without raising my voice. I remember the fire in their eyes when they needed me. I remember saving lives, building futures, shaping this damn city with my bare hands. And now, they think I've faded. That my mind is soft. That I've lost the edge. No. It's still here. Sharper now. Quieter. Like a scalpel left in a drawer, forgotten until it cuts deep. You see, I was not just a man. I was power in its purest form, not loud, not boastful. Precise. Purposeful. Patient. And now, I sit in silence, watching a world built on speed and vanity collapse in slow motion. They think they're safe. That I'm no longer dangerous. That I've gone soft, deaf, and blind. Let them believe it. Because I've been patient before. And I remember how to wait. And this time, I'm not here to build. I'm here to reveal. Pain doesn't always scream. Sometimes, it whispers. Quiet, sharp, and constant, like a slow drip on stone. 1,000 tiny cuts. And over time, even the strongest man bleeds dry. The last time I called my son, it rang 11 times. Straight to voicemail. I heard his voice, not real, just recorded, telling me to leave a message, I'll get back to you. He never did. That was 6 months ago. My grandson, Jackson, came by last Easter. Brought his new girlfriend. Introduced me as Rick, like I was some friendly neighbor, not the man who paid for his private school when his father couldn't afford it. Later, I asked him to help move a heavy box from the garage. He laughed, said, "Come on, you've got 2 hands," and kept scrolling through his phone. I watched him laugh at a meme. He never looked up. I memorized the time, 3:42 p.m. April 7th. His shoelaces were untied. He wore a hoodie I bought him when he was 13. He didn't notice. The pain isn't in grand betrayals. It's in the details. The nurse at the clinic last week called for help like I was a threat, just because I didn't answer her question right away. "He's probably confused," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I wasn't confused. I just didn't hear her the first time. My hearing's slower, not gone. But to her, I was already fading. At the supermarket, I dropped a carton of milk. No one helped. I knelt to pick it up, and something in my hip snapped. I stood there, holding on to the edge of the cart like a drunk, while a man behind me sighed audibly. "Some people shouldn't be out alone," he muttered. I turned to look at him. He didn't even meet my eyes. I remember that sigh. I remember every name badge, every dismissive smirk, every second that carved itself into my skin like a tattoo of irrelevance. That's when I started writing. A ledger. Not of debts, of disrespect. I have the name of the nurse. Emily. Long brown hair, fake lashes, impatient voice. Works Tuesdays and Fridays. Talks down to anyone over 60. I have Jackson's school. His internship. His social media accounts. The girl he's seeing, she has a trust fund and a famous father. She won't tolerate scandal. I have my son's office hours, his daily gym schedule, the name of the junior associate he's quietly sleeping with. He thinks he's subtle. He's not. Every person who laughed. Every moment they thought I didn't notice. Every time they looked through me instead of at me, I wrote it down. Not out of spite. Out of clarity. You see, pain has a way of sharpening focus. Of slowing time. When you have nothing left to lose, you stop blinking. You watch. And you wait. And slowly, the pain becomes something else. Not anger. Purpose. They think I'm a ghost. But ghosts don't forget. It happened on a Tuesday. The sky was the color of wet concrete. I had 2 bags in each hand, cat food, frozen vegetables, vitamins I no longer believed in. I stepped off the curb wrong. My knee buckled. I fell hard, face down, the bags exploding around me like a cheap firework. People saw. I know they saw. A man in a Tesla rolled down his window. Looked. Laughed. 2 teenage girls crossed the street to avoid me. And then I heard it. Not loud. Not cruel. Just, casual. Poor guy. Probably has no one left. Something inside me didn't break. It snapped into place. I didn't cry. I didn't groan. I lay still for a moment, like prey playing dead. But my mind wasn't still. It was screaming. I stood slowly. Picked up every item, one by one. My hands were shaking, not from weakness. From precision. From focus. A surgeon before the cut. When I got home, I locked the door behind me for the first time in years. Walked into the den. Pulled the old bookshelf aside. Behind it, the safe. Combination still burned into my memory. The click was louder than I remembered. Inside, a phone. Burner. Never used. Paid in cash. A thick leather folder. Names. Accounts. Old favors. And a notebook. Not the ledger of pain, the other one. The one I started decades ago, for emergencies. My black file. I called it the quiet book. Because when it opened, people went silent. You see, they forgot who I was. But I didn't. I remembered the hacker I helped disappear from the IRS radar after he saved my network from a billion-dollar breach. The disgraced journalist I paid to vanish when she uncovered the senator's scandal. The investigator who once dug deep into a murder case for me, and was never found wrong. I still had their numbers. I still had their secrets. They owed me. And I never called in the debt. Until now. I made the first call at 10:43 p.m. By 3 a.m., I had access to files my son would kill to keep hidden. By sunrise, I had the full list of my grandson's online activity, unfiltered and raw, more than enough to end his chances with the senator's daughter. I wasn't loud. I wasn't messy. I was surgical. This would not be vengeance. That's for men with no plan. This would be a lesson. And the first rule of the lesson? They never see the teacher coming. I didn't need to be seen. I just needed to exist in the right places. They say war is chaos. That's a lie. War, true war, is mathematics. It's pressure applied at the right point, at the right time, to the right nerve. I didn't want revenge. I wanted consequence. The first domino was my son. Dr. Benjamin Hayes. Voted most trusted executive in a regional magazine no one reads. Weekly talks on ethics. Instagram quotes about integrity. He forgot I still knew how to find fault lines. An anonymous email. With attachments. Photos. Messages. Financial records. Not fake, just selected. I didn't even need to press send. I let it sit in the inbox of a former rival of his, the kind of man who smiles while setting fires. Within 2 days, an internal investigation was quietly launched. By week's end, Ben was asked to take an indefinite leave to spend more time with family. He didn't call me. He called everyone else, lawyers, consultants, PR firms. But not me. Strike one. Jackson was next. My grandson. All charm, all image. A curated life made for likes. Influencer. Rising athlete. Groomed for politics. I sent his girlfriend a video. One she was never meant to see, of Jackson mocking her father behind closed doors. The audio was clear. His tone, arrogant, dismissive. Old man's a prop, he said. Politics is just a stepping stone. She posted a cryptic tweet that went viral. 2 days later, Jackson's sponsorship deal with a tech brand was pulled. His agent stopped answering. She left him, publicly, with a caption that said, "Turns out loyalty matters." He looked confused in the photos. Like the world had betrayed him. Strike two. And still, they didn't suspect. To them, I was just old. But in every quiet hour of every quiet day, I built the machine. I fed it with memories. With names. With truth. I didn't fabricate. I didn't blackmail. I simply released what already existed. Held a mirror to the faces that had forgotten how they looked. Some nights, I sat by the window, listening to the street. One night, I heard my daughter's voice outside, trembling, speaking into the phone, "I think someone's doing this to us." She was right. But she'll never prove it. Because shadows don't leave fingerprints. The house started ringing again. The phone. The door. Messages. "We miss you. You okay, Dad? We should talk." A sudden wave of guilt washing in from a sea that had been dry for years. I let it ring. They didn't deserve my voice. My silence became their sentence. I drank my tea in peace. I slept better. I wrote more. And for the first time in decades, I felt alive, not because I hurt them. But because I reminded them who I was. Not a relic. Not a ghost. A reckoning. They finally came. Not together. Not coordinated. One by one, like sinners approaching a confessional they never believed in. My son stood on the porch first. Older now. Smaller somehow. His shoulders sagged under a weight I once carried for him. "Dad," he said. I opened the door and stepped aside. I didn't hug him. I didn't ask how he was. I poured tea and sat down. Silence does things to people. He spoke too much. Explained. Justified. Blamed timing. Stress. Enemies. Never once asked how I was. When he finished, he looked at me like a child waiting for punishment. I said nothing. That was worse. My daughter came next. Eyes red. Voice tight. "We're scared," she said. "Everything is falling apart." I nodded. Not in agreement, in acknowledgement. The grandchildren arrived last. Awkward. Defensive. unprepared to meet a man they had turned into furniture. Jackson couldn't hold my gaze. The room felt heavier with every second. They all waited for words. For forgiveness. For absolution. But forgiveness is not a reflex. It's a currency. And they had spent theirs long ago. I stood up slowly. Looked at each of them. Not with anger. Not with triumph. With clarity. They saw it then. Not a victim. Not a broken old man. A witness. A judge. I returned to my chair and opened my notebook. The last page. The final entry. Old age is not weakness. It is vision without illusion. Those who ignore the elderly believe time has disarmed them. They are wrong. Time sharpens. Time remembers. And time collects. I closed the book. They left quietly. No one apologized. Not properly. And that was fine. This was never about revenge. It was about remembrance. Weeks later, people looked at me differently. Clerks spoke slower, but with respect. Doctors listened. Neighbors nodded. My family called before visiting. Not out of love. Out of awareness. I still live in the same house. Same kettle. Same chair. Same silence. But now, the silence answers back. And in it, I am no longer fading. I am watching. Because old men don't disappear. They become the last ones who see the truth. Subscribe and like this video, more interesting revenge stories of elderly people coming soon.